Stop. Before you scroll past this. Before you tell yourself you'll watch it later. Before you do what most people do with the most important information that crosses their path. File it under maybe and move on. Those people stay stuck in the sand. But not you. I need your full attention urgently today. That means all 12 zodiac signs will be confronted today, and there is an important message in here for all of you. What I am about to tell you about this week cannot be forgotten once you know it, and the cost of not knowing it, of moving through the next 7 days the same way you moved through last Monday and the Monday before that, is something you will feel in 6 months when you are trying to understand why nothing shifted. This is not a bog standard boring weekly horoscope. This is not feel-good cosmic content designed to make you nod along and keep scrolling. This is a preparation briefing for the single most concentrated astrological sequence of the entire year. A 5-event build that begins today and detonates on Thursday, April 17th with a new moon, conjunct Chiron inside a 7-planet stellium in Aries that astrologers are calling one of the most initiatory lunations in living memory. 7 planets, 1 sign, 1 new moon, 1 wound that has followed you since 2018, finally closing. Most people will feel this week as pressure, confusion, and emotional intensity they cannot explain. They will white-knuckle through it and come out the other side with nothing to show for it. That is not going to be you. Not because you're lucky. Because you stayed and acted on it. Comment I am receiving below to open the energetic confirmation of your intention. Let's begin. Let me tell you something about today specifically. Because if you woke up this Monday feeling like something didn't land properly, like the usual mechanism that makes you feel oriented, clear, and ready to move just didn't engage the way it normally does, you need to hear that this is not a you problem. Today Mars conjuncts Neptune in Aries, and what that means in real terms is that the planet of drive, action, and forward momentum has walked directly into the planet of fog, dissolution, and spiritual uncertainty. Your motivation is not broken. Your direction is not lost. The universe has deliberately clouded the view today because it is in the process of replacing the old picture entirely. And you cannot see the new one clearly until the old one has been fully removed. This is the thing most people will get wrong about this Monday. They will try to push through the fog. They will interpret the lack of clarity as a problem to be solved rather than a process to be respected. They will force decisions, force movement, force the kind of productive Monday that the sky today was specifically not designed to support. And in doing so, they will arrive at Thursday's new moon, exhausted, reactive, and running on the dregs of energy they burned, fighting a process that was never their enemy. You are not going to do that because you understand something that most people don't. The fog today is not the obstacle. The fog is the first stage of the most significant delivery sequence of the month. It is the universe clearing the old signal so the new one can come through without interference. Monday's only job is to let it clear. Your only job today is to not fight it. Now let me show you what is actually being built above you this week. Because once you see the architecture, once you understand that these are not 5 separate events but 5 stages of a single coordinated delivery, the confusion about why this week feels so loaded dissolves completely. This is the sequence. Stage 1, Monday, April 13th. Mars conjunct Neptune. The dissolution. The universe removes false clarity. The plans build on what you thought you wanted, rather than what your soul actually needs. It feels like fog. It is a clearing. Do not fight it. Stage 2, Tuesday, April 14th. Mercury enters Aries, the ignition. After Monday strips the old thinking, Tuesday delivers the courage to think differently. Mercury in Aries does not hedge. It does not circle. It cuts directly to the truth of a situation and speaks it without apology. The mind sharpens. The direction begins to emerge from the cleared ground Monday created. Stage 3, Wednesday, April 16th. Sun conjuncts Chiron. Mars sextiles Pluto. The illumination. Wednesday is the day the wound meets the light directly. The sun. Your conscious identity, your life force, makes exact contact with Chiron, the wounded healer, in the late degrees of Aries, the thing that has made you feel small, uncertain, or unworthy of the life you are building, gets held in the full light of your awareness, not to be destroyed, to be seen. And simultaneously, Mars sextiles Pluto, delivering the inner strength and depth of power to face what Wednesday illuminates without flinching. Stage 4, Thursday, April 17th, new moon in Aries, conjunct Chiron, the initiation. 7 planets in Aries, the most concentrated lunation in years. The wound that has been with the chosen one since 2018 reaches its completion point. What you begin on Thursday, what you choose to release, what you decide to claim, what you finally allow yourself to want without apology, lands with the full weight of 7 planetary forces simultaneously behind it. This is not a regular new moon intention. This is a declaration witnessed by the most powerful cosmic gathering of the year. Stage 5. Sunday, April 19th. Sun enters Taurus. Mars conjuncts Saturn, the landing. The week's fire meets the earth. What was initiated in the heat of the Aries Stellium gets its first layer of permanent structure. Taurus does not burn. It builds. What survived the fire of this week is now real enough to build on. 5 stages. 7 days. On delivery, and it started this morning whether you were ready or not. To understand what Thursday is actually offering you, you need to understand what Chiron is. Because most people hear wounded healer, and they nod along, and they move on, and they miss entirely the most important thing about what this placement means for the chosen one right now. In Greek mythology, Chiron was not like the other centaurs, where they were wild and violent and ruled by instinct. Chiron was the great teacher, the healer, the one who trained Achilles, who mentored Hercules, who held the knowledge of medicine, music, archery, and prophecy. He was the wisest being of his kind, and he could not heal himself. He carried an unhealable wound, a wound from a poisoned arrow that would never close, that caused him unrelenting pain for his entire existence. And it was precisely that wound, the open one, the permanent one, the one that never let him pretend he was beyond suffering, that gave him his extraordinary capacity to reach the people who came to him broken. He did not heal others despite the wound. He healed them because of it. Chiron has been moving through Aries since 2018. For 8 years it has been working on a specific category of wound, the wound around self-assertion, self-trust, and the deep belief that you are allowed to take up space, claim your desires, and lead your own life without waiting for someone else to confirm that you are qualified to do so. For the chosen one, this wound has a texture you will recognize immediately. It is the hesitation before you speak your full truth, the habit of making your vision smaller so it fits in a space other people can accept without discomfort. The part of you that has been doing the work, building the foundation, enduring the long, unglamorous construction phase, while quietly wondering whether what you are building is really meant for someone like you. That is the Chiron in Aries wound. And Thursday's new moon, with the Sun, Moon, and Chiron all in exact conjunction, inside a 7-planet stellium, is the most powerful closing portal for that wound the sky has offered in years. It does not close because you finally feel healed. It closes because you act anyway. You begin anyway. You claim anyway. The wound does not have to be gone for the door to open. It just has to stop being the reason you don't walk through it. I need you to understand the scale of what is happening on Thursday. Not because I want you to feel overwhelmed by it, because I want you to feel the full weight of what is being offered and treat it accordingly. A stellium in astrology is when 3 or more planets occupy the same zodiac sign simultaneously. 3 planets in one sign is notable enough to change the character of an entire week. 5 is rare enough to mark a month. What is gathering in Aries on Thursday, April 17th, is 7 planetary bodies. The Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Mars, Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron, all in the same sign, all at the same time, all concentrated into a single new moon, 7. To put that in context, a 7-planet stellium coinciding with a new moon conjunct, the wounded healer, inside the first sign of the zodiac, at the peak of a healing cycle that began 8 years ago. This is the kind of configuration that professional astrologers mark in their records, not because they are being dramatic, because the mathematics of how rarely this occurs demand that it be treated as what it actually is. This is not a regular beginning. A regular new moon plants a seed for a 4-week cycle. This plants a seed reinforced by 7 simultaneous planetary forces, all pointing in the same direction. What you initiate on Thursday, what you release, what you claim, what you decide about yourself and your path, and the wound you are ready to stop letting define your ceiling, lands with a weight that ordinary lunations simply cannot carry. The Sabian symbol for this new moon speaks directly to moving beyond the need for external validation, beyond performing for an audience that was never going to give you what you were looking for anyway. True power coming from authenticity, from pleasing yourself first. 7 planets witnessed your last beginning. This one they are inside of. Choose what you begin on Thursday as if you understand that, because you do. Now I need to tell you the one thing that will make everything I have just described completely irrelevant, because it is the most predictable, most human, most understandable mistake the chosen one makes when this much energy arrives at once. And if I don't name it before it happens, you will do it without even realizing. Here it is, with 7 planets in Aries, with this much fire energy, this much initiatory force bearing down on your life simultaneously. The trap is not hesitation. The trap is not doubt or avoidance or the pulling back that the chosen one is more typically warned against. The trap this week is moving too fast in the wrong direction. Aries energy at this concentration does not wait. It does not deliberate. It acts, and it acts with absolute conviction. And sometimes that conviction arrives before the fog of Monday has fully cleared and before Wednesday's illumination has had time to show you what actually needs to begin versus what simply feels urgent in the moment. The one who acts on Tuesday with Monday's confusion still running in their system will initiate something real, with real consequences, from a place that is not yet clear. And what gets started from unclear ground does not build cleanly, no matter how much energy goes into it afterward. This is why the sequence matters. This is why Monday's fog is not the enemy. This is why you do not skip to Thursday. You cannot rush the 5 stages. Each one is doing something the next one requires. The dissolution on Monday is not wasted time. It is the preparation without which Thursday's initiation has nothing clean to plant itself in. Feel the fire this week. Let it build. And when Thursday arrives, when the new moon is exact and the stellium is at full power and the wound is finally ready to complete, act then, from that ground, with that clarity. Not before. Now let's make this specific, because the 5-stage sequence lands differently in every chart, and the wound being addressed this week, the opportunity being activated, and the one practice that matters most before Thursday's new moon is different for every sign watching this. Here's your precise activation for the week of April 13th to 19th. Aries 7 planets in your sign means this is the most personally initiatory week of your entire year. The stellium activates your first house of identity, physical presence, and the core of who you are, at a depth you will not experience again for years. The wound being closed is your relationship with your own authority, the deeply ingrained pattern of seeking confirmation before you act, softening your conviction before you speak, making your certainty smaller so it is easier for others to stand next to. Thursday's new moon in your sign is a direct mandate from the universe. Stop asking permission. Your practice this week. Make one decision that requires only your own agreement. Not your partner's, not your mentor's, not the version of yourself that still needs to be told it's allowed. Yours alone, Taurus. The stellium activates your 12th house, the house of the hidden, the subconscious, and everything that moves beneath the surface of what you can consciously track. This means the most significant work of this week is happening in a place you cannot see or fully direct. Something is completing in your shadow. Something is being released from a depth that your rational mind cannot access or supervise. Trust that. Your job this week is not to force visibility on what is still processing underground. Taurus season arrives on Sunday, and with it a complete shift of energy into your first house of identity and presence. But it can only arrive keenly if the 12th house has had time to complete its clearing. Your practice this week: resist the urge to know exactly what is moving. Let the underground do its work without interrogation. Gemini. Your 11th house of community, soul-level belonging, and collective mission is the active territory this week. The wound being addressed is the chosen one. Gemini knows intimately the question of whether you truly belong anywhere, whether the people around you see the version of you that is actually real or only the version you have learned to present. Thursday's new moon plants a seed in your social world that will grow into something far more aligned than what currently surrounds you. But it requires your honesty first. Your practice this week: show up as the unmanaged version of yourself in one context where you have been performing the curated version. Notice who stays closer. Notice who pulls back. That information is the new moon's gift to you, Cancer. Jupiter is in your sign right now, and it is amplifying everything this week, activates in your 10th house of career, public life, and the contribution you came here to make. The wound being addressed is the gap between what you have been doing professionally and what your soul actually arrived here to build. This is not a small gap for most Cancers watching this. It has been growing quietly for years. The sense that the work you were known for and the work you were made for are not the same thing. Thursday's new moon delivers the ignition point. Sunday's sun entering Taurus begins the stabilization. Your practice this week: write down in one sentence what you would build if you knew with absolute certainty it would succeed. Not the safe version, the actual one. That sentence is your new moon intention, Leo. The stellium activates your 9th house of belief systems, expanded vision, and the philosophical architecture that determines what you think you are allowed to want for your life. The wound here is one of scale, the deeply embedded belief that a life as large as the one you actually envision is meant for other people, that the vision you carry privately is too much, too grand, too far beyond what someone in your specific circumstances realistically gets to claim. Thursday's new moon is a direct confrontation with that belief. Your practice this week: tell one person the actual size of what you are building, not the edited version, the real one. Watch what it feels like to let it exist outside of you for the first time. Virgo, your 8th house of transformation, shared resources, and the deep psychological contracts you hold with other people is the active territory this week. The stellium here is ruthless in the precision of what it illuminates. Specifically the dynamics in your life where your energy, your resources, or your emotional labor flows outward and does not return in equal measure. The wound being addressed is the one that tells you this imbalance is somehow your responsibility to maintain. That asking for reciprocity is asking for too much. Thursday's new moon plants a seed of genuine psychological liberation. Your practice this week: identify one dynamic where the exchange is structurally unequal and name it clearly to yourself without the usual softening. You do not have to act on it this week. Simply seeing it without defense is the initiation. Libra, the stellium falls in your 7th house of partnerships, the most personally significant axis in your chart for one-on-one connections of every kind. The wound being addressed is the one Libra carries longest and protects most carefully. The pattern of self-erasure in relationship, the habit of disappearing into what others need until what you need becomes almost impossible to locate. Thursday's new moon is not asking you to become someone who takes without giving. It is asking you to become someone who gives from fullness rather than from the fear of what happens if you don't. Your practice this week: hold one boundary this week without explaining it, justifying it, or softening it with an apology. Just hold it. That single act is the new moon seed, Scorpio. Your 6th house of daily life, physical health, and the invisible infrastructure of how you actually spend your energy is activated by this week's stellium. The wound here is one of sustainability. The deeply ingrained Scorpio pattern of operating at depths and intensities that the body and daily routine were never built to maintain long-term, while telling yourself that this is simply what commitment looks like. Thursday's new moon delivers a reset of your relationship with your own physical reality. Your practice this week: Identify one daily pattern that is costing you more energy than it returns, and make one specific structural change. Not a complete overhaul. One change. The new moon does not need a renovation. It needs a seed. Sagittarius. Your fifth house of creative expression, authentic joy, and the unapologetic self is the active territory this week. The wound being healed is the one around permission to be seen, fully, joyfully, without the editorial control that the chosen one Sagittarius applies to their own self-expression out of a long ago learned belief that being too much is a liability. The stellium here is an invitation to stop performing a managed version of your enthusiasm and let the actual size of your joy take up the space it has been asking for. Your practice this week. Create something purely for the pleasure of creating it. No audience, no outcome, no justification. Simply make the thing because it is alive in you and wants to exist. That act is the initiation. Capricorn. The stellium activates your fourth house of emotional foundation, private self, and the inner architecture of how your life actually feels to inhabit versus how it appears from the outside. The wound being addressed this week is the one Capricorn knows better than any other sign and admits to almost none. The gap between the life that looks correct and the life that actually feels like home. Home Trata Waterhi. Thursday's new moon plants a seed in your private world that will slowly, over the coming lunar cycle, begin to close that gap. Your practice this week. Ask yourself one honest question about your inner life that you have been avoiding because the answer requires something of you. Write it down. Let the honest answer stand without immediately problem solving it away. Aquarius. Your third house of communication, the power of your voice, and the relationship between what you know privately and what you express publicly is activated by this week's stellium. The wound being addressed is the one around your own authority as a thinker, a communicator, and a person whose perspective deserves to be heard without the usual layers of qualification and hedging that the chosen one Aquarius uses to make their truth more palatable to the room. Thursday's new moon plants a seed in your voice. Your practice this week. Say something true this week that you would normally spend 3 drafts softening into something safer. Say the first version, the one that arrived before the editing began. Pisces. The stellium activates your second house of self-worth, material reality, and the fundamental question of what you believe you deserve to receive in this lifetime. After the depth of the transmissions from last week, the Pisces moon, the Neptune downloads, the soul level activations, this week delivers the grounding. The wound being healed is the one that has told the chosen one Pisces that spiritual depth and material abundance are somehow in tension. The choosing one means diminishing the other. Thursday's new moon plants a seed that begins dissolving that false choice permanently. Your practice this week. Ask for something you need in plain language without wrapping the request in 12 layers of apology. Ask directly and let the answer arrive without preemptively managing the outcome. Before I go into the close, I want to stop here for a moment. Because this community has done something this week that I want to acknowledge directly. The response to this week's videos has been something I did not take lightly. The comments, the shares, the messages from people telling me that the April 9th timeline shift video found them at exactly the moment they needed it. That the soulmate portal on the 11th said out loud something they had been carrying in private for years. That the transmission briefing on the 12th gave them the first real permission they had felt to stop fighting what they were feeling. I read every single one of those, everyone. What is being built in the space is not a channel. It is a gathering, a specific frequency of people who feel things at a depth the ordinary world does not have language for, who sense the shift before it arrives, who refuse to accept that the life they can feel is possible is somehow not available to them. If you are new here and you have not subscribed, do it now. Not for the algorithm. Because this week's sequence is not finished. What the new moon on Thursday initiates will need context in the days that follow. And what is coming in the second half of April builds directly on everything that has been activated since the 9th. You do not want to arrive at next week without the full picture. Drop your zodiac sign in the comments below. I want to see who the universe gathered here for this briefing today. Because the fact that you found this video on a Monday morning at the opening of the most important week of the month is not an accident, and every single one of you who stayed deserves to be seen for it. Drop your sign. Let's see who is here. This is for you, not the general you, not the collective audience of people who stumbled across a Monday astrology video while scrolling through content that mostly asks nothing of them. You, the one who has been carrying something heavy for longer than anyone around you fully understands. The one who has been doing the work in the dark, building, enduring, trusting a process that has asked more of you than you have ever said out loud to anyone. The one who has felt, with a certainty that logic cannot fully justify and doubt cannot fully extinguish, that something is coming, that all of it, the construction, the patience, the long, unglamorous seasons of invisible effort, has been building towards something real. This week is the confirmation, not the arrival of everything you have been building toward. That is not how the universe delivers, but the confirmation that the foundation is real, that the direction is correct, and that the wound you have been carrying since 2018, the one around your right to assert yourself, claim your desires, and lead your own life without waiting for someone to hand you the authority to do so. That wound has an expiration date, and it is Thursday. You do not need to arrive at Thursday's new moon healed. You do not need to arrive whole, certain, fearless, or free of every doubt that has followed you through the construction phase. You only need to arrive willing to begin from exactly where you are, willing to let the act itself be the healing rather than waiting for the healing to make the act possible. 7 planets are gathering above you. The most concentrated cosmic audience of the year is assembled and waiting. And what they are waiting for is not a perfect beginning. They are waiting for yours. So this week, let Monday clear, let Tuesday sharpen, let Wednesday illuminate, and when Thursday arrives and the new moon is exact, and the stellium is of full power, and the sky is as concentrated and initiatory as it will be, all year, begin. Not the safe version, not the edited version, not the one that has been made small enough for everyone around you to be comfortable with, the real one, the one your soul has been drafting since 2018. It is time, and if you are still here, still watching, I genuinely appreciate you more than you know. You didn't have to stay. The fact that you did tells me everything about what you are ready for. The sequence is live. The window is open. Thursday is coming. Don't waste the week getting there.